Hello everyone. If you like this audiobook and want to listen to more, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, like it as well, that it enjoy.
Chapter 16, A Whole New World. My vision cleared quickly. Light streamed into my eyes, and my hearing returned. I could hear birdsong around me. I noted a quick ding from the system having given me a prompt. I then heard a gasp from nearby. My eyes snapped to where it was coming from while I was furiously blinking to make my eyes adapt to the sunlight. In front of me, maybe 5 meters away, stood a good-looking woman in her mid-30s. She had long dark hair, pretty eyes, and a kind face. Currently her hands were covering her mouth and she looked shocked. She looked very familiar. Seeing no immediate threat from her, I tried getting my bearings and then noticed I was stark naked. I panicked and tried to cover my bits with my hands, despite the woman having seen everything already. Heat rose in my cheeks and I quickly looked around to see if there was anyone else. Luckily she was the only one there and we seemed to be in a park since trees surrounded me while she was standing on a pathway. She seemed to recover and removed her outer shirt and slowly walked towards me like she was trying not to scare me away. "Hello there, what is your name?" she asked with a surprisingly calm and warm voice. She didn't wait for me to answer before continuing. "I'm Sally Jackson." My eyes went slightly wide, realizing where the familiarity from earlier came from. She reminded me slightly of the actor from the Percy Jackson films, only infinitely more attractive. "Hi, I'm William." My British accent rang out clearly, once again surprising her. "Hello, William, where are your parents? And why are you naked?" I hesitated, trying to think of what to say. I quickly decided. "They are not here, my dad is dead, and my mother could not come with me. I had to go here alone." Carefully not lying outright, I continued. "There are bad things here, things that want to kill me, monsters." I whispered the last word, trying to look scared. Before switching to sad and once more continuing. "My mum said I had to be careful before I left, to be safe." Sally seemed to come to her own conclusion knowing about the hidden world of Percy Jackson. She hesitated for a moment while wrapping the shirt she had removed around me, careful to move slowly. "Do you want to come with me for now? I know of the danger you speak of, but I have somewhere safe." Referring to Smelly Gabe, I'm sure. I nodded after a moment and she took my hand and off we went to her nearby car. I felt bad about the implied lies as Sally drove me toward their apartment, but I had to make sure she did not call the cops or social services. If I implied being a demigod, which should be true if my theory is correct, she would know I would not be safe from monsters with the authorities. Outside the car window, the city was very loud, car horns, people yelling, very different from home. We soon arrived at an old apartment building and together climbed the stairs since the elevator seemed to be broken. When we got to the door of her apartment, Sally stopped and turned to me, kneeling to get on the same eye level as me. "I live with my husband and my son. My son is away at a boarding school, but my husband is home." She hesitated. "He can be loud, and might say things that make you scared. Do your best to not let it get to you. I'll make sure you are alright, I promise." She truly was just as kind as described in the books, picking up a demigod that had already been discovered by monsters, then making sure he would be safe. I was not a defenseless child though. I just gave her a nod, and we entered the apartment. Immediately on entry, 2 things happened. First I noted the terrible smell and secondly we heard a loud voice. "Sally, come make more dip for my chips. And while you are at it, get me a fresh beer from the fridge." Sally did not look surprised, just turned to me to make sure I was fine before leading me through the hallway stopping at a door to a bedroom. "This is Percy's room. Percy is my son that is away. Please wait here for a bit while I explain the situation to Gabe." She squeezed my hand then let go and walked toward the kitchen. I quickly followed to the doorless entry to the kitchen. Sally grabbed a beer from the fridge and walked over to an armchair in the connected living room that was facing away towards the TV. "Here you go, honey. I'll make the dip in just a moment, but before there is something I have to speak to you about. There will be a child staying with us for a while. He won't bother you, and he'll be staying in Percy's room for a few days." At that I got the first view of Gabe as he turned towards Sally, his face sticking out into view. He was almost as ugly as he was smelly, bald, and not the clean kind of bald but with patches of hair remaining trying to make it look like he still had hair. He was fat, not chubby. I could see that just from the amount of extra chins he had. He looked at Sally, livid. "What do you mean a kid will be living here? No, I forbid it. I already have enough to deal with the first kid." He turned back around, like that had settled it, but Sally spoke again. "He has nowhere else to go. He must stay with us." Gabe turned slowly, this time standing up from the armchair. He looked furious at Sally's refusal. One of his meaty arms came up and Sally flinched backwards. As Gabe took a step to follow, his toe hit the armchair leg. "God fucking damn it. Son of a bitch. Motherfucker. Goddamn piece of shit." He kicked the armchair over, before his eyes went to Sally. "That was your fault." He moved toward her again and suddenly the same toe hit a lamp that definitely had not been standing there a moment earlier. Son of a bitch. Gabe fell to the ground gripping his toe in absolute agony after having stubbed it twice with force. Sally looked at Gabe in complete surprise, then slowly turned toward the doorway spotting me standing there, before quickly turning back toward Gabe. He is staying, that is final, this is my apartment. It was the second time I'd seen her backbone when dealing with Gabe. Gabe, still on the ground, got up again and took a step toward Sally again and hit the same lamp again that he had just knocked over. Jesus Christ, fuck, what is going on here? He said as he held his toe again, now nearly crying. I had enough of this, I already could not stand the other kid, but now too, that is not what I signed up for. It is me or the kid. I was not sure what world Gabe was living in because it was not a world anchored in reality, how he viewed himself was a mystery to me. The lamp from the ceiling suddenly fell and hit him in the head, glass shattering around him, though without reaching Sally. By now Gabe looked horrified, he finally spotted me standing in the doorway. You brought home a demon, he is a fucking demon. Get away from me. He had cuts all over but as he moved to get up I stepped out of the way as he ran toward the hallway, and out through the door. A quick thought came to me. Do I go after him and end it? No, no matter how foul he is, he never killed anyone to my knowledge or something else that warrants that. Sally's eyes were locked on mine. I gave her an innocent smile and said, that Gabe seems really unlucky. A chuckle escaped her and she was soon laughing full-on. She collected herself and went to stand in front of me, not seeming scared of me at all, despite knowing what I had done. The reason I endured him was because he protected my son, he is like you. I winced remembering the smell. Even if that is true, and he somehow protected your son, being in an abusive relationship is not something I think Percy would want, even to keep him safe. Is there really no other option than him? Sally seemed to deflate. It wouldn't be too bad, if I kept him happy, trailing off at hearing herself say those words. She pulled herself together, pushing away the bad memories. Either way, it is done. He is gone now, likely for good, and I won't let him come back, you are right. She seemed to realize something. You don't speak like a child, William. I gave her a sad smile. My mum used to say the same thing. She said I was very special, and a way too mature for a child. Sally pulled me into a hug, her earlier assumptions guiding her actions. I think she was right. How did you do all of it? I just leaned in and whispered. Magic, before taking a step back from her. She gave a chuckle and said, I'll get started on dinner, you can get set up in Percy's room. I sat down on the chair next to a small desk in Percy's room, taking that calm moment to check the system prompts. Congratulations, you have for the first time entered the world of Percy Jackson. Reward. Access to divine heritage. To receive full benefits a quest must be completed. Demigod physiology you are a demigod, your body has changed due to your heritage. Demigod soul you are a demigod, your soul has changed due to your heritage. Quest issued. Find out your divine heritage, find out which god your heritage comes from. Reward. 1. Express. 2. +3 spirit. 3. +3 magic. Unlock full heritage. 5. Unknown. I pulled up my status screen to see what changes this led to. Status of William Walker. Demigod Wizard. LVL 6 and 200 600 XP. Strength 9 right pointing arrow 15. Agility 11 right pointing arrow 17. Intelligence 16. Constitution 10 right pointing arrow 16. Magic 21 right pointing arrow 22. Spirit 20 right pointing arrow 26. Unspent stat points 15. Titles. Monster Slayer Tier 1. Gives +5% to all stats when fighting monsters, when equipped. Passive buffs. None. Active buffs. None. Traits. 1. Reborn Mind and Soul. 2. Fire Affinity. 3. Wandlessly Gifted. 4. Healthy Body. 5. Vibration Sense. 6. Focus Affinity. Demigod Physiology you are a demigod, your body has changed due to your heritage. Demigod Soul you are a demigod, your soul has changed due to your heritage. Wow, those are some massive improvements. Clearly related to my body and soul. On top of that I had received my first title and not even noticed it. Perhaps because of the active danger at the time. Maybe I should have started in the Percy Jackson world. No, I could not have had a better mother. Also Harry Potter's perks have been massive, and learning there is safer. Sally entered the room seeing me sit on the chair still wearing only the shirt she gave me. Oh, I'm so sorry William. I didn't think to tell you to borrow some of Percy's clothes. Here you go, she said as she handed me some of the stuff from the closet. Call me Will, please, Miss Jackson and thank you, I said as I accepted the clothes from her. She smiled and put her hand on top of mine. Only if you call me Sally, Will. After I had put on the clothes we had dinner together, the smell of the apartment already getting better. As we ate I started thinking about the timeline and about upcoming events. Mostly I thought about how Sally would get taken by Hades during the fight with the Minotaur. Sally spoke up after a few minutes of us silently eating her amazing food. I was thinking about asking Percy to come home for next weekend so you can meet him. What do you think? I thanked the gods, not the actual gods of this world, for the opportunity and answered. That would be great. Anyone raised by you has to be a pretty great person. It was not even just flattery, it was actually true. My every impression of Sally was of what an amazing woman and mother she was. She smiled at me, taking the compliment in stride. You are going to be such a heartbreaker in the future, that polished charm, mystery, and calm confidence you've got going. That sounded strange to me. I mean, I had had a few short relationships and 1 or 2 flings in my last life, but I had never been anywhere close to a heartbreaker, like she said. I decided not to think about it further. A few days passed and the weekend was approaching. Sally and I had a really nice time together when she was not working. One evening we were playing board games together in the living room. Sally had been beating me in chess as she looked at me, hesitated and asked, "Will, can you tell me a little about your parents?" I met her eyes and told the truth. My dad died before I was born. He died because of a war. So I never really knew him. My mom on the other hand is my favorite person. She is kind, brave and strong. She is my partner in crime. She raised me, making sure I knew that morals matter more than power. She helped me realize that bonds make us stronger, not weaker. She and I built a relationship on trust, and I will find my way back to her. Sally had tears in her eyes by the end. Her compassionate nature made her struggle with the secondhand grief of my story. I believe you will find her again, she said before continuing. I know she would be proud of your strength. How you helped me with Gabe was nothing short of a miracle from my point of view. I had never seen him that angry. I thought this might be it. This might be where he kills me. She trailed off, realizing what she had said to a child. I simply continued to meet her eyes and said, "You're welcome, Sally. I'm happy I could help. Both you and Percy will be better off without him, and I will continue to help for as long as I am here." She pulled me into a hug and then we continued to play. Whether it was board games during evenings or just relaxing in front of the TV, we had a nice time. She was a sociable, kind-hearted woman that fit perfectly as a mother. She didn't fully try to take that role with me though, which I was thankful for. Instead she treated me like a niece slightly older than I was. Percy's point of view. As I got out of the cab in front of the apartment I felt great. A weekend home with my mother instead of staying at the school I despised, apart from a few small exceptions, mainly my friend Grover. Ever since that strange field trip where I had fought Mrs. Dodds, everything had been so strange at school. Everyone acted like she didn't exist. Even Grover, my best friend, said he had no idea who I was talking about when I mentioned Dodds. I put that out of my head for now. I didn't want to soil the time I could spend with my mother on this. I went up the stairs of the apartment building and opened the door to the apartment with my key. As I stepped into the hallway, a boy stood there, right next to the door to my room. He seemed to be around 10 or so. He had short blonde hair, seemed quite fit for his young age and was wearing clothes slightly too big for him. Wait a second. Those are my clothes. A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. Chapter 17. The Calm. Percy's point of view. He did not seem bothered by my outburst. He just gave me a polite smile and, with a British accent, said, "Hello there, Percy. It is nice to meet you. I am William. You are in fact correct. I am currently wearing your clothes. I apologize for the fact, but your mother was the one that provided me with them. You see, she found me in the park under some rather unfortunate circumstances." I was surprised by the way he spoke. He sounded nothing like the child I was sure I was seeing. By then my mom showed up, having heard us. "Hello there, Percy. Welcome home," she said warmly, going past the boy to hug me. "This, as I'm sure you heard, is William. He will be staying with us for a while." My eyebrows rose and I couldn't help but ask, my voice coming out slightly angry. "What does Gabe think of that?" The way I said Gabe clearly said what I thought about him and his opinions. My mom smiled at me. It was a happy smile. "Gabe is gone, Percy. He won't be staying with us any longer. It will just be us from now on." My heart did a double beat at her words. Gone. That piece of trash was finally out of our lives. I did my best not to jump in joy, but the smile that lit up my face clearly said what I was feeling anyway. My mom laughed at seeing my happy smile. I couldn't help but throw another eye toward William. He showed up and Gabe immediately left. I gave him a smile and walked up to him with my hand out for a handshake for a proper introduction. "Hello William, I'm Percy. Nice to meet you." William's point of view. So this was Percy Jackson, the one who would become the most famous and strongest of demigods in history. He looked a lot like a younger version of his movie self, dark, slightly messy hair, those sea-green eyes, and a normal build. I moved to shake his hand. "Pleasure. I'm sure we will get to know each other over the weekend. Your mum tells me you go to Yancey Academy. Do you like it there?" The question actually made him wince, making me feel bad for asking. After removing his jacket while answering, we started moving toward the kitchen and the connecting living room. To be honest, no, but I have a good friend there that makes it bearable, Grover. My eyes met with Sally's for a moment. She had told me about Percy's heritage a few days after I had caused Gabe to leave. I tried to honor her trust by never outright lying and trying to help them best I can. Friends have a way of making things better, at least the real ones. Sally joined our conversation asking Percy how things had been at school lately. After Percy's deflection of her question, our conversation settled into a nice rhythm. Later that night, after having dinner together and chatting, I told them some stories about London. Percy and I were in his room getting ready for bed. Percy suddenly turned to me, seeming to have decided to ask. What happened that made Gabe leave? A direct question. I decided to tell the truth, but not the whole truth, not yet, knowing the risks. He got fed up when Sally brought home another kid. That piece of garbage threw a tantrum and told Sally it was him or the kid. He left screaming after she refused to send me away. All of it true. I was getting good at half-truths. Percy looked at me with gratitude, despite not knowing just how involved I was in Gabe leaving. Thanks, man, even if it was just because of you and not your actions that caused it. I owe you for getting Gabe away from my mom. I knew that any answer other than acceptance would come off wrong, so I just nodded. After I lay down on my mattress and him on his bed, I asked. So what is your favorite subject? He kept looking up toward the roof for a second, thinking. I like the Latin lessons. Mr. Brunner is kinder than many of the other teachers, and focuses on interesting subjects, Greek and Roman mythology, classical culture and stuff like that. My mind went to work on the timeline again while a small part led the conversation onwards. Yeah, those are interesting subjects. I have always loved Greek mythology myself. What is the subject you hate the most? Does it change or stay the same? This time Percy didn't hesitate to answer. Math, it is by far the worst. I've always had a hard time with numbers, but on top of that our old teacher Mrs. Dodds, he trailed off. I mean, our old teacher was a nightmare. Thank you, Percy, he had given me what I needed to be sure about the timeline. My mind flashed through the coming events. Percy leaves school with Grover accompanying him because he senses danger. Percy sees the fates, the trip to the cabin with his mum, Grover showing up, the car chase, the Minotaur. William, Percy asked, pulling me out of my thoughts. Perhaps I'm not that good at multitasking yet. Sorry, I think I'm getting a bit tired and please call me Will. Some teachers can be nightmares. It feels like some people just want positions of power to lord it over others. Percy nodded. Exactly, I just wish the people who wanted to help people learn became teachers instead. Like Mr. Brunner. Yeah, I wish you better luck in the future, Percy. I have a feeling your future teachers will be better. Is it okay with you if I turn off the reading lamp? I'm exhausted. Percy just nodded. I switched the light off from where I was lying and said, Good night, Percy. Good night, Will. I had already decided I would not let Sally be taken. Sure, Percy might rescue her, but what if me being here changed something so she died instead? No, I refused to let her die, refused to play into keeping everything like it was, just to keep my knowledge of the future intact. Things would change anyway, so trying to keep canon was just going to make sure I would eventually run into a change I did not expect or prepare for anyway. I would stack the deck best I could instead, but more importantly protect those I cared about. Sally had become someone I cared about. Her inherent good nature had made it impossible not to. I pulled up my status screen to make sure I was truly prepared for what was coming. Status of William Walker, Demigod Wizard, LVL 6 and 200 600 XP. Strength 15, Agility 17, Intelligence 16, right pointing arrow 27, Constitution 16, Magic 22, right pointing arrow 26, Spirit 26, Unspent stat points, 15, right pointing arrow 0. Titles, Monster Slayer, Tier 1. Gives plus 5% to all stats when fighting monsters, when equipped. Passive buffs, none. Active buffs, none. Traits, 1. Reborn Mind and Soul. 2. Fire Affinity. 3. Wandlessly Gifted. 4. Healthy Body. 5. Vibration Sense. 6. Focus Affinity. Demigod Physiology, Demigod Soul. I had finally spent my stat point, fully focused on the upcoming battle with the Minotaur. Saving Sally was my goal, my only priority, apart from making sure Percy and I lived, of course. Intelligence was by far my most important stat for now, making easier and more efficient use of my magic, faster thinking, faster everything. Magic for that pure power. The Minotaur was a monster with a lot of durability, and I did not have my wand. Bringing it down would be hard. I would have to be smart about it. 1. Control its movement, making it stumble, using telekinesis to move stuff in its path. 2. Setting fire to its fur. 3. Trying to throw something sharp into its mouth, preferably through its brain, like Harry did with the basilisk in canon. I'd make sure to start keeping knives on me, anything easy to carry but sharp would be good as well. For the moment satisfied with my plan, I let sleep claim me. Percy's point of view. The weekend home had been great so far. Gabe was gone, Mom was happy, and I think I had made a new friend. Will was an interesting dude. He seemed way older than he looked, and apparently he looked older than he was. He was not even 8 years old yet, but I still felt like the younger of us. I was having so much fun that I completely forgot about school and everything that had gone wrong there. On Saturday, Will and I went alone to an arcade. He convinced me, telling me how much fun he and his friends Tonks had last time. He talked a lot about her, his mom Diana, and someone named Alistair Moody, a very strange name. As we were walking out the arcade, some older kids came up to us. The largest of the three of them, who appeared to be their leader, stepped in our path and said, "Hey, you have to pay to walk past here. $5 each." He crossed his arms as he said it, making him seem bigger somehow. I was trying to figure out what to say. We had just spent our money at the arcade having nothing left, when Will spoke up. "Hello there, governor. Lovely day, innit?" Sounding very unlike how he usually talked, like he was doing an extreme accent on purpose. His answer seemed to confuse the three bullies, and his large smile made them even more confused. Will waited politely for them to answer. When they didn't, he continued, "We were just passing through. You lads have a good day." With that, he just started walking straight ahead toward them. The leader seemed to pull himself out of the confusion to put a hand on Will's shoulder to stop him. Will, however, just kept walking, the arm not slowing him down, and just walked straight into the bully's chest, pushing the bully back into the side like he had been hit by a tackle of someone much larger than himself. I was shocked but hurriedly ran to keep up with Will, who had still not stopped walking. The three bullies were so shocked they just let me pass in the gap Will made. Some other children nearby also looked on with surprised expressions. As I caught up to Will, I asked, "How did you do that? You just bulldozed him over. He was almost twice your size." Will leaned towards me like he would tell me his secret and whispered, "Magic." After the build-up, I got slightly angry, but quickly pushed that away. He had just saved us a huge headache or even a beating. So I did what Mom would tell me to do if she had been here. "Thanks. I guess I owe you another." Will shook his head. "That was nothing, you still only owe me one. I'll collect when you are older and more powerful." He said it with a wink, but something in me felt strange. I shook the feeling and we continued home. William's point of view. Percy had gone back to finish school. He only had 2 more weeks before his summer break. I spent my days alone when Sally worked, practicing more using multiple knives with my telekinesis. I wish I had magic to buy better and bigger weapons, but for now this would have to do. When Sally came home in the evening, I had already made sure to cook for her, paying her back a bit for staying there. The first time she had been shocked, but after assuring me I didn't need to, and me insisting, she accepted the small help with gratitude. I was mostly a meat-focused chef, and Sally's economy was not the best, so we had to make do with some cheaper stuff than what I was used to from both lives. Nonetheless, it was a success. I also made a note of truly paying Sally back for her kindness when I had the opportunity. Getting rich was not really hard for someone with my memories and abilities. That was not an option for now though, unless I wanted to start a career of crime or magic. Time passed quickly and soon Percy would come home for summer break, starting the chain of events that would bring us before the Minotaur. I had tried to convince Sally to pull him out of school and bring him somewhere safe. She had insisted he stay the year since there was no active threat. I tried to convince her more than once but to no success, so we were stuck doing it the hard way. I felt the vibrations from the door handle when Percy got home from school. I was in the kitchen with Sally baking her famous blue cookies. Well, I was watching, not wanting to mess anything up, but making sure to remember her recipe for later. My memory had improved immensely from my extra stats combined with the mental exercises Moody had recommended when I asked about occlumency. I had a small mind palace by now that I could increase as my mind improved with my intelligence. I called out, "Welcome back, Percy. Come join us in the kitchen. We're baking what you Americans would call blue cookies." I felt and heard the drop of the bag in his quick steps. Sally turned just as he entered and gave him a warm smile. "Percy." She went to hug him. I gave him a friendly tap on the shoulder which he returned. He seemed happy to see us but then seemed to remember. I gotta find a new school for next year. They had been informed of that long before I came, but today seemed to reinforce that. I decided to try to bring him out of his funk. "Don't think about that now. We have blue cookies," and Sally said something about a yearly trip to a beach cabin. It worked. Percy looked up and a huge smile broke on his face. "So you are coming? Great. We will have so much fun. I love the beach and the ocean." We packed our newly made cookies and other essentials and left soon after. A while later we arrived at a small cabin right on the ocean. The site was calm and beautiful, the beach and the ocean, with a cloudless sky, and the sun still high in the sky. We unpacked quickly, settled in, ate some frozen pizzas before deciding to take a walk on the beach. The way Percy lit up when he got close to the ocean made it clear just how much his heritage affected him. I myself always loved the water, but I had always been more of a lakes guy. We walked along the beach with our feet in the water as waves came. It felt really good to be there, away from the noise of the city. The better air and the calm here was comforting. I understood why Percy and Sally would come here every year, just to feel this. The crashing waves produced countless overlapping vibrations my senses could pick up. The calm and quiet made separating them, despite their number, feel easier than on a busy street. Percy and Sally talked. I mostly listened feeling peaceful, complete. I let my thoughts drift toward who my godly heritage could come from. Was it one of the Olympians or one of the other gods? The setting sun pulled me from my wandering thoughts. We decided to make a campfire at the beach and stay longer. Sally was telling Percy about his father. Not wanting to interrupt, I stepped away for a bit to walk in the dark. The darkness settled over me as I left the campfire. As I walked I thought about what was coming. I hoped I was ready. We went back to the cabin and Percy quickly fell asleep in an armchair, while we were all relaxing in comfortable positions. An hour passed with Percy's calm breathing. Then the storm I knew was coming began, with the crack of thunder, followed soon by the smattering of heavy raindrops falling on the roof. I looked at Sally, and thought, so it begins. The door to the cabin burst open, the sound startling Percy awake. Grover, or who I assumed was Grover, stood there looking panicked. Percy, thank the gods you're okay. Chapter 18 The Storm. Grover's eyes then snapped to me and he froze up a bit. Who? He then kept talking, this time to Sally. There's no time, we gotta get out of here, right now. Sally, who had temporarily frozen when Grover arrived, came back to life. Grover, what's wrong? Grover, still panicked, started rambling. I've been looking for Percy all night after Percy disappeared at the bus station. He said something about seeing old ladies with a thread. Sally looked scared at hearing this, then turned sharply to Percy, putting her hands on his shoulders. Tell me exactly what happened. Percy quickly recounted everything. Mrs. Dodds attacking him, his teacher throwing him a pen that somehow became a sword, nobody remembering Mrs. Dodds afterwards, people acting strangely, finally, the three old women cutting a thread. Sally listened without interrupting Percy's quick narration and then made a quick decision. We are leaving, now. Sally immediately went for the door, leaving everything behind, pulling Percy along. I followed quietly along with Grover. Mom, what is going on? Percy asked as we reached the car. Where are we going? He continued asking questions when he received no answers. Percy looked back at Grover for answers when getting none from his mum. His eyes then really took in Grover for the first time since he arrived. You're a goat, pointing towards Grover's goat legs and hooves. Half goat, a satyr is the correct term. Grover answered, with a slight mutter. Sally drove fast along the small roads leaving Montauk. Lightning was flashing outside and thunder rolled. Percy sat in front next to Sally, and I was sitting in the backseat with Grover. The heavy rain made it hard to see well outside, but the lightning gave Percy periodic clear view of Grover's goat legs, reinforcing the strange situation. Percy, after another glance toward Grover's legs, turned to his mum. Do you and Grover know each other? Grover jumped in instead of Sally. We have never met before, but she knew I was watching you. Percy's face fell at that. So our friendship was just a lie. You just needed to get close to me. Grover looked devastated at Percy's words. No, not at all, our friendship was genuine. I like you, Percy, that has nothing to do with me watching over you. Like I said before, I am a satyr, like from Greek mythology. Which by the way is all true, gods exist, and don't say their name. They can take notice. Percy now looked at me. Did you know, Will? I nodded before continuing with an answer. It was not my place to tell you. Also, after you become aware of what exists out there as a demigod, things notice you back. I just like you are a demigod. Percy looked shocked. I'm a demigod, and you are too. Sally jumped in at that, cutting the conversation short. Yes, Percy, that also has to do with where we are going. There is a camp for people like the two of you. A place where you will be safe. I should have brought you there earlier, but I didn't want to lose you. Just as she finished, a loud deep bellow sounded somewhere behind us. I started noticing some very strong vibrations from something very heavy further back to our right. Grover now seemed more stressed than ever. I called. Something very large is behind us, I can feel it from here. Drive faster, Sally. Her foot hit the pedal harder, pushing it to the floor. There's the hill, Sally said, and we entered the last stretch, driving over the dirt road toward a hill with a large tree on it. Lightning struck right next to the car. Sally swerved, losing control, making the car turn straight into the ditch, making it come to an abrupt stop. The crash caused my head to hit the seat in front of me despite being strapped in, making me go dizzy and causing my eyes to lose focus. As I tried to shake off the effect, I felt my vibration sense go crazy as something very large came toward the car at a quick pace. Then I both felt and heard the front door get ripped off and a very large blurry hand reached in and took hold of Sally, pulling her out. No. With my telekinesis not working properly, it took a while to finally manage to unstrap my seatbelt and pull the door open. My vision started to clear just as I got out and was instantly greeted with the sight of the Minotaur holding Sally high in the air. The Minotaur was over 3 meters tall, covered in short black fur and rippling with muscles. "Let her go," I yelled, my anger flaring. I threw a wandless confringo, despite knowing the drain that would cause on my magic, towards the Minotaur, which hit it in the chest, causing an explosion. As the dust settled, there was only a patch of missing fur where the spell had landed. It had only staggered slightly. Its hide was far tougher than anything I had encountered. I quickly adapted, throwing the car door to the side, hurling toward the Minotaur, who raised its arm just in time to shield itself. The door crashed into its arm with a lot of force, but still only staggered it slightly. I heard Percy yell, "Release her, you overgrown cow." Now finally out of the car, Sally thrashed as she was held by the neck and yelled, "Run, boys." Just as Percy instead starts moving straight toward the Minotaur, Sally dissolves into a golden light. Percy stops where he is and falls to his knees. No, his scream is one of pure pain, anger and hopelessness. At the same time, I looked at the fading light, frozen. For a heartbeat everything else disappeared. I failed, Hades still got her. In the meantime the Minotaur grabs the car door I had used and hurls it back toward me. With no more time to despair, I jump out of the way while using telekinesis to push it slightly, of course. It still scrapes my right arm just under the shoulder, ripping through the skin leaving a large cut on my forearm, bleeding. "We need to focus or we will die here, Percy." I yell out while again throwing the door back toward the Minotaur, who is moving toward Percy. This time I aim right at its ankles, causing it to stumble and fall as it hits it from the side. I take out all 5 knives I brought and send one of them straight toward its eye, as it lies there. It hits the Minotaur's eye but does not penetrate deeply at all, just into the eye itself. It remains buried there. Another is sent trying to distract it by cutting the ears, while the rest try cutting its Achilles tendon. This time it is no longer dazed and gets up, even as the knives follow it, trying to cut what they can reach. Most of the knives bounced harmlessly off its hide. Only the one lodged in its eye drew any reaction. It started running toward me, trying to destroy the thing that annoyed it. Percy finally entered the fight. As the Minotaur passed him, he flings himself on its lower back, distracting the Minotaur. The Minotaur quickly pulls him off before he gets far, throwing him to the side. He has to get back up. I take the time of his distraction to get some heavier stones from the ditch, sending them to pepper the head of the Minotaur. Once again I realize the lack of damage I'm doing, even targeting weak spots. I let out a stream of fire toward its face, hoping to scare it or at least distract it. The flames washed over its face. It jerked back, more annoyance than pain. No real damage was done. It did little else besides making it more angry. In the corner of my eye I caught sight of Percy forcing himself back to his feet. The Minotaur roared at me. I sent a knife straight into its mouth that simply got crushed as the Minotaur bit down, only causing a little blood. The Minotaur roared but still didn't even look winded. Percy had shaken off the hit by then, getting back up. He seemed to refuse to let the thing that he believed took his mother from him get away with it. He once more threw himself on top of the Minotaur as it moved toward me. This time from the car, getting much higher up on its back. It tried reaching for Percy on its back, but its muscles got in the way. Percy refused to give up, no matter how much the Minotaur roared or shook. Percy no longer seemed to be fighting to survive, he was fighting to kill. He kept climbing, finally making his way to the neck with a roar of his own, channeling all the anger of seeing his mum disappear like that. He grabbed the Minotaur's right horn, twisting it. A sound reminiscent of a large branch snapping came and the horn broke. This caused the Minotaur to go absolutely crazy. It finally managed to catch one of Percy's arms and flung him toward me. I caught him best I could with telekinesis. It was surprisingly easy, unlike any other time I tried to lift somebody. We looked toward each other quickly as we stood side by side, thunder still roaring around us and rain coming down hard. Then looked back toward the Minotaur. It surged toward us, this time on all fours, barely wounded at all. It was only bleeding slightly from its mouth and its ears. The knife stuck in its eye annoyed it and reduced vision further, but didn't do any real damage, and 3 knives swirling around its ears no longer distracted it. I moved right towards the car. Percy left toward a tree. The Minotaur was completely focused on Percy, the horn clearly more important to it than its eyes. I pulled the now mangled car door, now really starting to feel an immense strain on magic, and sent it hurling toward its ankle again just as it was about to reach Percy. This time, as he was running on all fours, it didn't fall. He did, however, change direction slightly, making only its arm hit Percy just as Percy pushed the horn into the side of the Minotaur. It penetrated easily, going deep into its side, making the Minotaur collapse and crash into the ground, rolling forward. Percy was at the same time launched by the hit of the Minotaur right into a tree, immediately losing consciousness. I rushed over to the lying Minotaur, trying to use telekinesis to pull out the horn. The magic completely slid off it. So instead I removed it by hand. I raised the horn to get rid of this cursed creature, hopefully for good. Just as I was about to bring the horn down into its head, the Minotaur crumbled to dust. I quickly ran toward Percy, checking his pulse and breathing, both strong. I exhaled. We had won, but not without cost. I picked him up carefully with telekinesis, using the last of my magical strength. I then went to the car with Percy floating after me to collect Grover. After putting Percy down on the ground, I carefully pulled Grover from the car, laying him next to Percy. I then removed a towel from the back of the car for each of them to lie on and another to wrap my injured shoulder. My hand trembled slightly as I tied the towel, adrenaline starting to wear off. I strapped the horn to my back. I then proceeded to drag them both physically toward the tree on the hill. Just as I crossed the top of the hill and felt the magic of the boundary, the camp opened up before me. A broad valley lay before me, untouched by the storm raging behind us. A large blue farmhouse at the center, scattered cabins, and in the distance a lake reflecting the moonlight above. Some people were running towards us. Ahead was a blonde girl with gray eyes that stopped before me. "Who are you?" Chapter 19. Instead of answering immediately, I sat down on the ground, without even looking at her, completely exhausted. This made her bristle, clearly not used to not getting answers to the questions she asked. I asked, "Who are you?" I finally looked up at her, locking eyes with her. The girl reminded me a lot of a younger-looking blonde Alexandra Daddario. I decided I had made her wait long enough to point out her rude welcome. "I'm William, the guy who brought back your satyr there." Pointing at the unconscious Grover, I then gestured towards the unconscious Percy. "The one is Percy, the one Grover is supposed to protect." Instead we had to fight a Minotaur while he lay unconscious, leading to Sally, Percy's mum, getting taken by some god. So you will have to excuse my current foul mood, which did not improve with being met by weapons and questions upon entering the place. People like us are supposed to be safe. The people around Annabeth, a few children of different ages, looked both astonished and chastised. "I very much doubt that," Annabeth said, clearly not believing we killed the Minotaur, so I just pulled the horn from my back while keeping eye contact with her. She looked down, shocked, then away, a slight blush on her cheeks. "How about you get those two to the infirmary if you have one? You there," I pointed to one of the older ones, a big guy with a lot of muscles. "Yeah," he answered, looking surprised. "What is your name?" I simply asked, keeping my eyes locked with his. Charles Beckendorf." I held out the Minotaur horn toward him. "Make sure Percy gets this when he wakes up. He was the one to kill the blasted thing." Charles nodded and took the horn, weighing in his hand and seeming to wonder what he could make from it. After Percy and Grover had been carried away to have their injuries treated, I was led toward the large farmhouse in the middle of the camp. I was surprised when, who I assumed was Annabeth, was the one who stayed to guide me. I thought she would go with Percy, like it had been hinted at in canon. In the end I just shrugged and asked, "So what is your name and who is your parent?" She answered proudly, "My name is Annabeth, and Athena, the goddess of wisdom, is my mother." I kept walking but nodded. She took a glance at me again. "You're British, how come you are here?" We reached the farmhouse and I answered just as I opened the door. I was split up with my mum, and ended up being found by Sally, Percy's mum. There are always monsters that look to hunt those like us, pushing us in directions we never thought we would take. I gave no outright lies, but it was far from the truth. Inside the building was a centaur and a man, both weirdly dressed for the times, one of them giving off immense pressure that was not quite magic. The man had a can of Coke and was playing a game with the centaur. As I stepped toward them I bowed slightly to the man. "It's an honor to meet you, my lord." Dionysus looked up at me, surprised. A Brit all the way in our camp, and one who knows how to address me. Curious, he turned toward Annabeth. "Girl, did you tell him who I was?" She shook her head, looking curiously at me. "Well, it does not matter much, all you pesky things are everywhere. No matter where I look there are humans. I'm off Chiron, get this." He trailed off, looking at me to interject. "William, right, get this." Jillian introduced to camp. Dionysus then dissolved into grape-scented mist. Chiron smiled kindly toward me. "I was told what you did for Percy and Grover. Thank you for getting them here safely." "I'm sorry, but I don't have much time right now. Annabeth can answer any question you might have and get you settled in a cabin." "Welcome to Camp Halfblood, William." I was completely exhausted, so I asked Annabeth to simply take me somewhere to let me sleep. It was in the middle of the night after all. "Well, where you sleep depends on your godly parent. Do you know yours?" Annabeth asked. I just shook my head without emotion, just wanting to lie down. Then you will have to take a bed in Hermes' cabin. I'll try to wake Luke up so he can get you a bed. We stopped before a weathered wooden cabin, more worn than most of the others I'd seen. Annabeth entered quietly and soon came back with a blond young man. I saw her blush slightly in the moonlight from around him. He seemed freshly awake and still a bit out of it, but he mustered a smile. "Hello there, I'm Luke, nice to meet you. The best I can get you for tonight is a hammock. We can set you up with something better tomorrow." "Nice to meet you, Luke, sorry for being the reason you are out of bed this hour." "I'll gladly take the hammock, I'm exhausted, anything would do right now." I nodded goodbye to Annabeth and followed Luke inside to my hammock. The moment I lay down, I took a moment to acknowledge that this world is far more dangerous than what I thought. I must remember that the dangers here are of a different level to the Harry Potter world. I then promptly pass out, exhaustion catching up. I woke up suddenly, looking up at a kid standing next to my hammock, his hand just next to my pocket. I turned my head and locked onto his eyes with mine. A cold stare didn't feel like it should belong to someone looking around 10 years old. The kid, maybe around 14, froze, then quickly gave me a charming smile. "I was just about to wake you. Luke said you came in late so you could sleep a bit longer than normal." "Well, it is later now. Annabeth is here to show you around camp and you can begin your training after that." As he was talking, my mind went back to last night trying to orient itself. As I recalled the start of the Minotaur fight, Sally being taken, vanishing in that golden light, pain ripped through my chest. I had to take a deep breath to stop a sob. I had committed to stopping Sally from being taken. She was a kind-hearted soul who had helped me upon arrival without any incentive. A cough broke my thoughts. "Are you okay, man?" The kid looked a bit worried and a little uncomfortable. "Yeah, sorry, bad memories. What's your name?" I asked, temporarily shaking off the thoughts of Sally. "My name is Connor Stoll, son of Hermes." "Nice to meet you, William." No wonder he was reaching for my pocket. A thought came, the legendary Stoll brothers were infamous in canon. "Nice to meet you, Connor," I said, getting up. I walked past him toward the door of the cabin and before leaving I turned toward him again and continued. "If you ever try to steal from me again, I will take something from you that you value far more." I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked at Connor. For a heartbeat, my eyes didn't belong to an 8-year-old. Connor's smile faltered. He shivered slightly before his brain seemed to catch up with him, probably reminding himself I looked 8 years old and couldn't possibly do much, right? Outside the cabin Annabeth was waiting impatiently. "Finally, I thought you would never wake up. I was instructed to show you the camp. Follow me," she said, then walked off without letting me answer. I jogged after her catching up. I was after all taking up her training time, might as well respect the time she was taking to give me an introduction to camp. I met her eyes and gave a sincere smile. "Thank you, for taking the time to show me around. Whether or not you were instructed, I am still grateful to you for taking time out of your training." She slowed down slightly with a surprised look. She hesitated slightly before answering. "You're welcome. I have had a lot of time to train the last many years, a few hours should not matter much." After that she looked less annoyed and started pointing out cabins as we went, naming a few people that we passed as well. We soon came upon a field with archery targets. Annabeth stopped and turned to me. "Any archery training?" "Not in this life," I thought before answering. "Limited, I know the basics, but I doubt I'll need it." My comment made her curious. "Why?" Instead of answering I simply took out one of the 3 remaining knives I had left and sent it hurling toward the target 50 meters away, hitting it dead center with enough power for the entire blade to sink through. She stared at the target before slowly turning back to me. "How did you do that?" "No demigods I know of have those kinds of abilities. It looks like the telekinesis from movies." I leaned toward her and whispered. "Magic." For the first time ever, when I gave that answer it was taken seriously. Annabeth's eyes widened. She turned back toward where the knife was stuck. Just then I pulled the knife back to me, making Annabeth take several steps to the side. The knife just slowed down as it got close and hovered next to me. "Wow, the pure versatility of that is amazing. Imagine fighting monsters with heavenly bronze swords hovering. What is your maximum range? How many things can you manipulate at the same time? Can you use them in a fight?" Annabeth going into strategy mode was fun to see. She was completely absorbed in thoughts while looking at the hovering knives, then back at me to prompt answers. I was unsure whether or not to answer, but since I was going to train here she would see it anyway. I decided to be truthful about my telekinesis, while keeping other stuff hidden. That was about my maximum range. I can send things further using momentum, but to manipulate about 55 meters. I can lift more than a dozen objects at the same time, but not individually control them. I can currently use 5 objects with decent efficiency in a fight manipulating them individually, though far from perfectly. My answer shocked her. She instantly realized the pure offensive power of that if used correctly. "I want you on my team in the next Capture the Flag." I laughed at that, and she continued. It is a game we play, or more like war exercise. 2 cabins make the base of each team and recruit other cabins to join them. Well, I'm currently part of Hermes' cabin since I'm staying there. I wish you the best in your negotiations. She gave a quick smile. I have to go see Luke, which is perfect because he is certain to be at our next location for the introduction to camp. We soon came upon an open-air arena. Inside, on the sand floor, demigods and some satyrs were everywhere practicing melee combat. Some split into pairs, others in one big group that appeared to be practicing together. At the center of the group was Luke. He looked much more awake and present than last night. He was giving instructions to others as we came up to the group. Annabeth immediately pulled him aside, interrupting his instructions, to speak with him alone. The others kept practicing and I walked up to the weapons racks. One contained wooden practice swords, spears, and shields. The next rack held blunted steel weapons and the last, with fewest weapons, contained celestial bronze weapons. I carefully picked up one of the celestial steel daggers and then tried to lift it with telekinesis. It felt harder than lifting steel, but far from impossible. In fact, it felt very doable. I picked up another from the rack, feeling slightly more strain on my magic. I stopped at 3. Right now that was what I could sustain without running out of magic at a noticeable rate. Luke and Annabeth had finished their talk. Instead of heading back toward the group, they headed straight for me. Luke's eyes were wide as he took me in, standing there with 3 celestial bronze daggers hovering around me. I heard him grunt. You weren't joking. Toward Annabeth, his eyes never leaving the daggers. Annabeth told me what you could do. Seeing it, though, is different. Who could your godly parent be for you to be able to do this, Hecate? Though those children usually have very different styles of magic than yours, much less, he swallowed lightly. Combat-oriented. I gave him a grin, making the daggers start striking individually toward invisible targets. How do you think we brought down the Minotaur? I might not have killed it, since I only had steel knives available, but I could distract it, stagger it and set up an opportunity for the kill. I said, keeping it factual, without pointing out that Percy might have done it himself if I hadn't been there. How about some practice? With wooden or blunted swords, of course. I looked at Luke, one eyebrow rising. He looked toward the daggers. Probably a good idea to start with wood. I laughed. Are you sure about that? I asked, at the same time putting the celestial daggers back and making 4 wooden swords and 3 wooden daggers rise from the rack. This was what I could currently control individually. I am sure it would rise quickly as I got used to my new enhanced mind. In the Minotaur fight it had been surprisingly easy to control those 5 daggers, even bringing in other objects. Besides, 7 was a magical number. Luke looked slightly worried, but nodded. We lined up a few meters from each other while making sure we had room around us. The others who had been practicing formed a large ring around us, clearly not wanting to miss the spectacle. Annabeth called out to begin and off we went. I sent 2 swords toward his chest angled to stab, while sending 2 swords to strike his legs. Meanwhile the 3 daggers were sent up in the air, disappearing from his immediate view. He managed to somehow deflect both swords aimed toward his chest while jumping over the 2 swinging toward his legs. Just as he landed, he noticed a dagger hovering next to the back of his neck. Another was hovering between his legs pointing upward and the last was directly above his head pointing downwards. He froze. Everyone watching froze. Annabeth's eyes lit up. She was already analyzing possibilities. I brought the weapons back to hover around me and the tension broke. Applause came, some shouts and people were yelling questions. Luke came toward me slowly. That was not even a fight. How can anyone possibly handle that? I'm good with a sword, excellent in fact, but there was simply nothing I could do. Not versus 7 individual opponents who don't themselves take up space and don't follow the laws of physics. I gave him a smile, but then looked sad again. Still none of that mattered versus the Minotaur. Sally still got taken. I still failed. Percy was still hurt. I turned around and left the area without interacting with anyone else. My bad mood had come suddenly. I can't believe I momentarily forgot everything that had happened. I decided to go check on Percy. Percy was still unconscious, not helping my mood. Grover, however, was awake, and tried repeatedly to apologize for failing to protect us. I was still a bit angry with him at his late arrival to the cabin. I did recognize that anger was mostly me mirroring what I felt toward myself onto him. I left soon after, went back to the arena, got a sword and 2 daggers of celestial bronze and left again. None tried to stop me. I then found a meadow, built some targets from branches and started to practice to work out some anger. Every day after I get up, I wash myself off at the Hermes cabin. I look at the scar left by the Minotaur, in my reflection, every time remembering how I had failed, then leave to train. I spent 3 days mostly alone training. After my anger had worn off, I spent most of the time thinking about how to fight targets like the Minotaur. I started manipulating my own body using my telekinesis to move faster. The first attempt actually worked. I shifted half a meter to my right while remaining on my feet. I tried again, harder. The world lurched sideways. Instead of a graceful dodge, I slammed shoulder first into the ground, rolling through the grass before coming to a stop. Quote. Right, less force. It took most of the 3 days to get it to function. I could not fly or anything, but I could move myself sideways. A day later, I also started making my jumps longer. Then started trying some acrobatics to increase movement further. At the end of the 3 days I could handle the 3 weapons while using telekinesis to drastically increase my movement. It was far from perfect, but miles ahead of where I was before I started. As I was in the middle of training the 4th day, Grover came by in a hurry. Percy is awake, finally. He is asking for you. Hurry. He ran off and I quickly followed, my weapons floating behind me. We arrived at the house he and Grover had been kept while healing and quickly entered. Inside were Percy, Kyron and Annabeth. They all looked up as we came in. Annabeth looked a bit sour and said, "So, finally leaving your seclusion." I didn't even look toward her, stepping up to the bed where Percy sat. "How are you feeling, Percy?" He looked toward me with a helpless expression. "Is my mom really gone, Will?" "She was taken, not killed, if that is what you thought. Vanishing in golden light, that is not death. Whoever sent that Minotaur decided to take her instead of letting her die. Likely to get you to go after her. I just laid it all out for him." Percy looked toward Kyron. "Who sent the Minotaur?" Kyron shook his head slowly. "I don't know, Percy. I suggest, at least for now, that you put it aside and focus on training. You got lucky with the Minotaur. If you want to survive long enough to save your mother, you must train first." Percy stood up and said, with determination, "Then let's start the training." Percy, Grover, Annabeth and I headed straight toward the arena so Percy could begin his training. I had suggested he start with the sword, despite Annabeth speaking about starting with archery. I just said I had a feeling the sword would be Percy's thing based on what I'd seen with the Minotaur. As we showed up at the arena, my first time since I had taken the weapons, we got a lot of eyes. Some tracked Percy, the newcomer, but most looked at me. After I had beaten Luke and then left the arena to train on my own, it seemed my reputation had been established. Some would come by to see me train, despite my meadow being away from camp, my training method spreading. Luke came to meet us with a friendly smile. He stepped up to shake Percy's hand. "Ah, Percy, right. Nice to meet you. I heard that you killed the Minotaur." The compliment seemed to make Percy slightly uncomfortable. He looked toward his feet and answered, "I just dealt the killing blow. I would have died if Will had not been there." Luke nodded, clearly liking that Percy didn't try to brag. He threw a glance toward me. "I believe you. I have seen what he can do, experienced it even. Still, though, delivering the killing blow to a creature like the Minotaur is no small feat. Are you here to train?" Percy looked at me as Luke talked, then nodded at the last part. Luke and Percy moved toward the weapon racks while Annabeth, Grover and I just hung back, letting them take their time. A few minutes later Luke and Percy were standing in the ring. Luke had just shown how to disarm someone and was now setting up a demonstration with Percy. I tapped Grover's shoulder. "What odds will you give me for Percy to win the next exchange?" Grover looked at me, surprised, then laughed and said, "Versus Luke, 10-1. I smiled and sent a prayer to the gods of Canaan. 3 drachmas on Percy. Grover shook my outstretched hand. "I won't turn down free money." Just then the exchange between Percy and Luke began. In the beginning Percy is completely on the defensive, but as the fight continues something changes. He starts anticipating Luke's attacks and successfully countering them. Luke, who notices, starts fighting more aggressively. Percy, who seems to realize he is about to lose, goes in for the disarming technique Luke had just shown. He catches Luke's blade near the base, twists with all his weight, and knocks Luke's sword onto the ground. Percy, with a surprised expression, then points the tip of the sword towards Luke's chest. Everyone is stunned. Grover slowly turns toward me, his mouth hanging open. "You've got to be kidding me." Chapter 20 Capture the Flag. Another few days passed in a whirl of training. Then came the big event, Capture the Flag. The teams were set, same as canon. Leading one team was Athena Cabin, which had recruited Hermes Cabin and Apollo Cabin. The other team was led by Ares and had recruited Hephaestus, Aphrodite, Demeter and Dionysus Cabins. Me and Percy were therefore on Team Athena, since we temporarily belonged to Hermes Cabin. Somehow Percy still had a run-in with a few Ares kids just like canon. Clarice LaRue appeared to have a thing for giving new half-bloods a special welcome, and the results were very similar. This time she had tried to ambush Percy near the canoe lake after he had gone swimming after training. Turns out, trying to throw the unknowing prince of the sea into a lake was even harder than trying to push his head into a toilet. People started looking at him more after the rumor spread, whispers followed him, yet he was completely unaware still. I, however, had somehow avoided the welcome from Ares' cabin. I wonder why. As we moved towards the forest where the game took place, I thought about what was coming. The Hellhound should appear shortly after the game ends, summoned by Luke to attack Percy. I could warn Chiron and stop it before it ever became a threat, but I wasn't certain Poseidon would claim Percy without the attack. I'd let events play out, while remaining close enough to intervene before Percy was seriously hurt. We were now lined up, our entire team stood next to the flag as the game was about to start. The plans had been made, everything was clear. Me and Luke, along with a few Hermes kids, one Athena kid and 2 children of Apollo, were going on offense. The rest would hold different defensive positions. Apollo kids, defending, would climb trees, and the Athena kids were the last line of defense next to the flag. Percy was the only one who had not yet received his objective. Instead, Annabeth had insisted she would show him to where he was meant to defend when the game started. I had already clued Percy in about the Ares kids likely looking for revenge during the game. So this time he was aware of what was coming for him. I also told him it was probably smart to fight in the water. I'm not sure how dense he needed to be to understand who his dad was despite controlling water, but he still seemed to accept my advice since he trusted me by now. I had also pointed out to him that stalling the Ares kids would also mean we would win. Annabeth's plan made sense in that way. Not telling Percy, however, was not a smart move long-term from a strategist. Annabeth, however smart, was a 12-year-old girl who had never been the leader in a high-stakes scenario. She didn't yet realize that being sacrificed in a wargame without being informed could easily lead to distrust when it really mattered. All she saw was winning. I had brought 4 blunted steel swords, 2 blunted steel daggers and 1 shield with me. The weapons were now floating around me and the shield lightly strapped to my back. I was ready to test myself against these demigods. The number of weapons left some room to manipulate my body, along with whatever else I could use. The last preparations were made, and the horn sounded. The game had begun. Luke, the Stoll brothers and I took the lead of the offensive team, splitting up slightly to more easily spot the enemy. We set a good pace through the trees and quickly reached the creek. The others waded through it while I just took a huge leap across using telekinesis to push the jump further and softening the landing. I got some looks from the others, but they at least remained quiet and quickly refocused. Just then I sensed the first enemy demigod as vibrations echoed through the ground. The demigod was about to reach the treeline next to the creek. I quickly sent a dagger forward towards the demigod to the gap in his armor at his neck. He was out before he saw us. He quickly surrendered and walked away from the game area. I signaled incoming just before more demigods poured out from the treeline and a small battle erupted between us and them. I stayed back using telekinesis with maximum efficiency, sneaking weapons up, holding them next to necks, armpits or other weak spots. One Ares kid tried using an arrow to bring me down from further back, a good try, but with nothing to distract me the arrow stood no chance. Someone eventually yelled, "Rush the new guy, he can't defend against all of us." The defenders rallied, all of them swung wildly at the ones they were fighting, then made a beeline straight for me, leaving only a few to distract my allies. 6 managed to reach me that the others couldn't stop or take out. This mad dash would cost them the battle, but they decided taking me out was a must. I pulled myself back with telekinesis from a swing, before then using the shield to deflect another attack. Then as more reached me I simply pulled myself back across the creek with a jump backward. The defenders who attacked me were now left surrounded by my teammates, who had taken care of most of the others. A battle that should have cost us time and maybe 70% of our offensive force was instead done with only 3 casualties and 3 minutes. We pressed on through the trees, with me sensing the vibrations of anyone hiding along the way. It was almost boring. I simply sent out daggers tapping people on the head sitting in trees. We suffered another casualty when an arrow came through a gap of trees originating from too far away from me to sense. But other than that we came upon the final defense intact. I decided to enter melee this time as staying back didn't really teach me anything by now. I stepped in towards a hammer-swinging Hephaestus kid, deflecting his hammer with my hovering shield. Then I used one of my swords to swing against his knees making him jump back. Another sword was sent to meet him midair, the flat of the blade tapped his forehead lightly. Just then another demigod tried to swing towards my side. I pulled myself out of the way completely against the normal laws of physics. Then I sent a sword to distract him while pulling myself towards him, ramming into him while his sword was out of the way, sending him stumbling to the ground. I avoided another swing by jumping high in the air right over the demigod while doing a somersault, landing gracefully. The demigod turned to find a dagger next to his throat and me walking away towards the enemy flag. I lifted it off the ground with one arm and ran straight towards the still fighting demigods and again took a huge leap over the battle. I set a good pace alone through the woods towards the creek, still hearing the sound of battle behind me. I was not heading straight back, instead moving to where I knew Percy would be positioned. Just before reaching the creek I saw Percy. He was in the middle of a fierce battle against Clarice, with the rest of the Ares kids that had come for him lying in various states in the shallow water of the creek. Clarice had that spear that made it very hard for Percy to block and was therefore weaving around it at a speed I had never seen him move before. He had listened to me, keeping himself moving in the shallow part of the creek at all times, water coming up to his ankles. I smiled as I stood there with the flag. Now this guy had some real raw potential. Clarice seemed to grow more and more angry and overcommitted to a stab towards Percy, making the spear go past him. Percy grabbed onto the spear, letting his sword go pointing downwards, and leveraged his shield and twisted hard. The spear snapped. Clarice started cursing Percy and jumped him, bringing them both into the water. When they surfaced, Percy was holding Clarice in a rear naked choke. He had won. I then jumped over the creek with the flag, ending the game. Percy immediately let Clarice go as he saw me enter our side of the creek with the flag. He waved sheepishly and I laughed. Clarice looked ready to attack Percy again, but I simply gave her a cold look while stepping towards her. She stopped, still angry. People started showing up, our side cheering, the other side looking dejected. I went up to Percy and said, "So you took my advice, have you figured it out yet?" He looked confused. I sighed, "Is there any hope for him? You grow stronger in the water, and you can even manipulate it." Then my vibration sense went off. A large creature had just entered my range, coming towards us quickly. "Monster!" I yelled to get everyone's attention, while sending my swords towards the trees where the monster is about to appear. A large hellhound came crashing out of the woods, heading straight towards us. My 4 swords met it just as it entered our sight, hitting it in the shoulder and forelegs. It howled loudly and one leg gave up, making it tumble straight towards me and Percy because of its speed. Percy pushed me aside at the same time I pushed him back with telekinesis and pulled myself backward. This sent me further and faster than I intended. I tumbled over the beach. At the same time, Percy splashed into the deeper parts of the creek. The hellhound came to a stop and got up on 3 legs, moving towards Percy again. Then an arrow hit the monster deep in the neck, killing it instantly. The monster crumbled to dust, making my weapons and the arrow fall into the shallow water. I get up slowly and see Chiron riding towards us, an arrow nocked and ready. I then looked at Percy as he stood up in the creek. As he walked out of the water, a soft green light gathered above Percy's head. It coalesced into the unmistakable shape of a trident. Percy had been claimed. Chapter 21. Should I stay or should I go? Whispers broke out around us, but everyone turned quiet as Chiron spoke. "It is determined." Percy looked at Chiron, finally getting it. "My father?" he asked. Chiron's voice became solemn, carrying far for all to hear. "Poseidon, Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail, Perseus Jackson, son of the sea god." At that everyone went down on one knee, except Chiron, who bowed deeply in respect. Percy looked shocked, seeking my eyes as I kneeled. I gave him a wink. As we left the forest, many conversations broke out among the demigods. How did the hellhound enter camp? Percy's claiming, the game itself. All of them were being discussed around us. Chiron seemed very worried as he walked next to us out of the forest. He explained to the 2 of us that no monster could get past the camp barrier without being invited in. Percy had a lot of questions and was done waiting for answers. "Will, do you know what's going on? Why is my getting claimed such a big deal?" "Well, your father is one of the big 3, gods of much greater power. As for the rest, I think Chiron can answer it best." I answered. Percy turned toward Chiron with a look that said, "Tell me." Will is correct, but it is more complicated than that. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are the most powerful of the Olympians, yes, but beyond that there is the oath. Many years ago, after the Second World War, those 3 swore a sacred oath on the river Styx not to have any more demigod children. Their children had become too powerful, and a prophecy foretold that one of them could determine the fate of Olympus. Chiron spoke, showing off his natural habit of teaching. He then took a breath and continued. "When your father claimed you tonight, he publicly acknowledged that you are his son. That means every god, every monster, and every demigod now knows who you are." Percy looked a bit overwhelmed, but pressed on to get his answers. Why did Poseidon wait so long? The gods rarely acknowledge their children immediately. To do so would draw attention to them before they are ready. Had he claimed you earlier, you would never have known calm from that moment. Your father knew that breaking the oath would have consequences. Claiming you too early would have placed an even greater burden upon you. He waited until you reached Camp Halfblood, where you could finally be protected. Percy, again overwhelmed, decided to focus on what was most important to him and asked. "If Poseidon's really my dad, why didn't he help my mom?" Chiron looked uncomfortable at that question, but answered. "The gods are not free to walk among mortals as they please, Percy." Percy looked livid. "So he let her get taken instead. If that is the type of father he is, then I'm glad I never met him." With that he stormed off, leaving behind a sighing Chiron. Chiron turned to me and said, Please look after him, William. He will need support for what is coming. I nodded and went after him. The following day, a shift was felt at the camp. People seemed to have realized what Percy being claimed could mean. Whispers broke when Percy passed, some seemed nervous, some angry. Chiron came by Poseidon's cabin later that day to explain what the implication of Percy being claimed was. I was there keeping Percy company at the time. Percy, there is something about your claiming I did not have time to explain yesterday. Percy seemed sheepish at the hint of him storming off. Chiron continued. You see, Zeus' lightning bolt was stolen recently. It is the greatest weapon of Olympus. And Zeus believes Poseidon did it. Now, with Poseidon claiming you, and with the oath being broken, Zeus believes you did it. Percy interrupted, panicking. Me, he believes I stole it. Why? Chiron calmly continued, though with a sympathetic look. Zeus believes you did it on your father's orders. You see, gods cannot take another god's symbol of power. Demigods, on the other hand, he believes Poseidon is looking to overthrow him, and now with you being claimed that you were the instrument. Chiron continued holding up a hand to stop Percy from interrupting. Zeus and Poseidon are preparing for war. Storms are appearing across America. Olympus is dividing. Percy looked defeated. What do I do? He looked toward me, then toward Chiron, looking for direction. You must see the oracle. A quest must be issued to find the bolt. And maybe, just maybe, you can find your mother as well along the way. Tensions were rising inside the camp. With the lines drawn, the gods were picking sides, and the camp reflected that. I could see a kid from Apollo cabin arguing harshly with a kid from Athena cabin. An Ares kid shoving another child of Athena. A few fights almost broke out. I was training when I saw a younger child from the Apollo cabin being cornered by two older children of Athena. They shoved him back when he tried to go past them, calling him a traitor. To my surprise, Clarice was walking past and saw it and immediately got in the Athena kids' faces. She yelled about them being cowards for teaming up on someone. They yelled back, then the shoves came from both sides. I saw one of the Athena kids put his hand on his sword and was about to step in when Chiron arrived. They stopped immediately, but still angry. Chiron looked at both sides and said, do not be so quick to divide. This divide is not ours, but the gods. Also beginning something here, before the gods have even taken that step, could have very dire consequences. Tension settled slightly, but the underlying issue remained unsolved. Later that day Percy was leaving to go see the oracle. I couldn't help being drawn into the thoughts about the future. I have been gone for nearly a month. I would have to return soon to keep my promise to Mum. In the meantime, though, Percy is being pulled into the quest for the lightning bolt and saving Sally. What should I do? Stay, and break the promise to Mum, or go back? What do I prioritize here, the immediate thing of helping save Sally or keeping the promise to the most important person in my life? Maybe I didn't have to choose, though, if I went back to Mum, spent a few days with her, then came back to help, before Percy enters the underworld. I would not be a part of his party then, of course, but leaving camp and helping could work anyway. I let out a breath as I came to the compromise, breathing easier again after having decided. Assuming the prophecy was the same, I had my plan. Percy came back from the oracle looking terrified. Before I could ask any questions he was summoned alone for a meeting with Chiron and Dionysus. He came out, perhaps 10 minutes later, and immediately went straight to me with Chiron following behind, looking resigned. Will you have to come with me to save my mother? She is likely held by Hades. He is the one who took the lightning bolt as well. I looked up from where I was sitting outside Hermes' cabin as he came storming up. Luckily I was there alone. Chiron immediately spoke. No, William here is too young, and too new to camp to be going on a mission like this. Not without being mentioned in the prophecy. I'm sorry but I forbid it. Percy turned on Chiron angrily. But he can beat anyone here. He is the only one who values my mother anywhere near as highly as I do. Chiron just shook his head. I've been informed he is only newly turned 8, though he looks older, and fights like a veteran. He is too young. Pick someone else, Percy. When you decide who, and have asked them, come to me for final approval and we will see you off. Do not delay for long, the solstice is approaching. He left at that, leaving no room for protests. I sighed and spoke. I'm truly sorry, Percy. I would sneak out to go with you. But my mum has waited long enough for me. I must find a way to return to her. I promise I will return to help you save your mother, but it will have to be after I fulfill my promise to my mum. Percy looked completely crushed and I felt terrible. But I had already been here for nearly a month and I had made a promise to the most important person in my life. What does the prophecy say? I asked. Percy, still looking defeated, recited. You shall go west, and face the god who has turned. You shall find what was stolen, and see it safely returned. You shall receive unexpected aid when your need is great. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. And you shall fail to save what matters most, in the end. Quote. Unexpected aid. I said under my breath. A new line had appeared in the prophecy. It was the exact same, but with one line added. Is it referring to me helping them? Could my planning to come back and help from outside the party have changed fate? Percy, I will give you some advice. First, I suggest you pick Annabeth and Grover. I know you can trust both of them when it comes to the quest. Second, and you can't ask any questions about this one, do you agree? He looked confused, but nodded, so I continued. Anything given to you before you leave that is not from Chiron, throw it away. Percy immediately opened his mouth to ask, but I just held up my hand. I promise I will tell you later, for now, please just trust me. He gave me a long look, weighing my words, then nodded. I further promise you, I will help you save your mum. I might not be able to join your party, but helping after you leave, once I've had time to find my mum again. That is a whole other thing. I will not let Sally be a prisoner or a chip in the game of gods. By the end of my rant, Percy was visibly breathing easier. Thank you, Will. It means everything. I guess I'll owe you another before this is over, huh? I laughed at that. I swapped to an American dialect. I got your back, brother, from another mother. I said, trying to sound like Carter from Rush Hour. We sat chatting for a while after that, just hanging out. We moved to the Poseidon cabin for more space and just had a nice evening, before everything started. The following day, Percy talked to Grover and Annabeth and prepared for the quest. I spent the day training relentlessly to fight bigger monsters, practicing to use high-impact spells wandlessly, and hitting moving targets at weak points, with telekinesis-driven blades. I had decided to leave when Percy left for his quest. Before dinnertime the next day Percy and his team were ready, and I was ready to return. I had decided to mask my leaving by making people believe I sneaked out to help Percy with the quest, which was also true. After goodbyes at camp had been made I followed Team Percy to the edge of camp for a private goodbye. I'll see you soon. Remember everything I said with a wink. He returned the wink and gave me a one-armed hug. He smiled, happy at the reminder that I would follow to help save his mother. I'll see you soon, Will. I nodded to Annabeth and Grover and they all got into the car for a ride to the city with Argus, the 108 head of security for Camp Halfblood. As the car went out of sight, I activated the travel back to the world of Harry Potter and darkness immediately covered my vision. When I came to, I was again standing in my house. My mum was right in front of me. I was happy to see her again and let out a big smile. Mum, I'm finally home. It is good to see you. Sorry I was gone for so long. I gave her another smile and moved toward her for a hug. She looked very confused and just as we started hugging she answered. I'll always take a hug, my Will. But what are you saying? You have not even left yet. Chapter 22 But I'm not 11. Mum, what do you mean? I've been gone for almost a month. I traveled to another world, lived with two very nice people, fought a monster and trained in a camp. I was talking very fast by the end. My mum listened without interrupting, then spoke. William, for me you didn't go anywhere, you gave the nod for goodbye, and then a second later you yelled out that you were finally home. Time doesn't pass when I leave a world. Mum, but that would mean that time freezes in the world I leave, or at least that there is a shift in how time flows that is so large that it felt like no time passed for you. Diana seemed to be thinking about it, but then her face just cleared and she gave a big smile. I don't really care why or how. All I know is I won't miss any time with you when you leave on your adventures. I was still wearing all the gear I had when I left this world, and nothing from Percy Jackson had come with me. I went to put everything away after giving my mum another long hug. In my room I stood watching myself in the mirror as I thought about what all of this would mean. As I pulled the camping shirt over my head, my eyes immediately snapped to my forearm. The wound was gone. The wound I had seen almost every morning at Camp Halfblood was completely gone, no scar, nothing. What did this mean? Did I heal when I traveled? I pulled up the system for clues. Status of William Walker, Demigod Wizard, LVL 6 and 200/600 XP. Strength 15 right pointing arrow 10. Agility 17 right pointing arrow 12. Intelligence 27, Constitution 16 right pointing arrow 11. Magic 26, Spirit 26, Unspent stat points, 0. Titles. Monster Slayer Tier 2. Gives plus 10% to all stats when fighting monsters, when equipped. Passive buffs, none. Active buffs, none. Traits, 1. Reborn Mind and Soul. 2. Fire Affinity. 3. Wandlessly Gifted. 4. Healthy Body. 5. Vibration Sense. 6. Focus Affinity. 7. Demigod Soul. I gasped as I saw the changes. My physical stats had taken a nosedive. I had to take a few breaths to calm down before I could think things through. All my physical stats went down by exactly 5 points. My demigod physicality was also gone, along with those 5 points in Constitution, Agility and Strength. So wait, does this mean that my body stays behind in the other world? But what about the first entry? I had everything when I arrived in Percy Jackson. I don't bring back stuff related to my body. The demigod soul trait was there, the stats spent on intelligence and magic had remained. Could it be that I only bring, or rather get a copy of my body upon entry? Then everything remains the same when traveling back and forth in the future. It was all too much to think about. Time wasn't passing, and I appeared to have separate bodies in each world. I at least knew one thing. With time being no issue, I had, well, time. Time to get stronger to really be able to help with Sally. Though it would still come down mostly to negotiating, since I was a long way off from being able to fight the god of the underworld in his domain. With my conclusion established, I began my return by just spending a few evenings with Mum. No training. I had set a pace in Percy Jackson that had been, perhaps, a little extreme. My failure to save Sally, and me being unable to beat, or even truly harm the Minotaur had clearly left its mark. Now home, though, I had the most valuable resource in the world, time. Me and my mum sat before the old TV with rented movies like the Star Wars trilogy, The Godfather and Back to the Future. I could not wait for Lord of the Rings to drop, again. Being able to go to that first cinema showing would be amazing. I just wish I could find a way to remove my memories of the films to see them again for the first time. After a few days of relaxing, my mum seemed to start to worry about me. One evening she sat me down after I had gone out to rent another movie for the coming evening. First of all, William, let me make it clear that spending all this time together just relaxing has been great. Is she about to break up with me? A thought came before she continued. I'm starting to get a little worried about you though. All this is so unlike you. You train, that is what you do. Almost all day, every day. What happens in the other world for your outlook to change so much? I had only given her a recap of everything, without really including how everything had made me feel. Mum, I'm fine, it's just that I missed you when I was gone. No time may have passed for you, but for me it was almost a month. You are not wrong though, what happened over there changed me. The truth is, I failed Sally, Mum. I let the Minotaur grab her, then I let her be taken to be used as a chip for a god. So what did I do after? I trained, hard, for almost every waking hour for the rest of my stay. Then I come home, and I realize no time passes in the other world while I'm not there. I just wanted to take some time to spend with you, before going back to the madness of getting stronger. I promise, Mum, I'm fine, or I will be, after I save Sally. My mum gave me a long look doing her own appraisal, before nodding. I understand, we will relax for one more evening, then training restarts for both of us. I'm not saying you have to keep the insane pace you had before. But at least do some running and a session with Moody to keep yourself sharp. I just nodded and we started the movie. Time passed, I kept training with Moody, spent time with Diana and waited for Tonks to return from Hogwarts. My mum and I started going to museums together at my prompt, medieval museums. You see, I had been thinking about how I unlocked the Percy Jackson world. The mermaid touching me had prompted it, so what did I do? I started touching swords, shields, armor. I even tried swinging or wearing different pieces trying to trigger the prompt for unlocking the Game of Thrones world. I tried the same with comic books, once again a shield and other stuff to try to get access to Marvel. Every few weeks, we would try something, always ending in disappointment. Tonks came back for summer. We again greeted her at platform 9 3/4. That summer she told me about her first dream about the future, becoming an Auror. She had been visiting me to hang out one day, when Moody knocked on the door. Mum was out trying to find a new job, so we were home alone. I went to open the door and Moody walked in, his wooden leg smacking against the floor. Nymphadora, I was not expecting to see you here. Tonks' hair went bright red and she interrupted. Don't call me Nymphadora. Moody didn't even blink before continuing. I was stopping by for practice with William, after I missed our regular time. This is good, you are long overdue to start your survival training. Will here has been doing it for years already, and he is almost 4 years younger than you. Tonks seemed to brighten up at that idea. She loved magic, and especially anything that was useful for an adventure or prank. We all went to the cellar together to practice. Moody looked at me before grunting out. Analyze her abilities for me, boy. Tonks seemed put off by him addressing me instead of just asking her, and she was not one to be quiet when upset. Why are you asking him? Just ask me, Mad Eye. Moody turned to her, unimpressed. Will here has been training with me for many years, and he knows you well. I imagine he was the one to teach you wandless magic. Anyway, he knows how to assess a situation or someone's abilities much better than someone untrained would. He turned back to me like the matter was concluded. So I began. She is nimble and quick, experienced in wandless magic to a very rare degree. She can do some basic telekinesis, though unlikely to do so very well under pressure. She can summon her wand back to her. She has access to the complete list of spells from Hogwarts curriculum year 1 through 3rd, with perhaps 75% of the 4th and a few spells from 5th year. She has no combat training or high-stakes encounters under her belt. She can use limited wandless fire magic at touch range. She can cast about half of her known spells nonverbally. Moody nodded, satisfied with my answer, and turned to Tonks. That is a very impressive list of accomplishments for someone who just finished 2nd year. You should consider becoming an Auror. The compliment made Tonks light up. She had gotten to know Moody well enough to know how rare those were. Moody moved to the center of the room before turning to Tonks again. I believe in learning by doing, so we will duel. You will throw everything you have at me. I will start slow and turn the heat up as we go. Tonks nodded and pulled her wand out. They stood lined up toward each other. Tonks began immediately with sending a stunner followed by an immediate nonverbal Expelliarmus. Moody stepped away from the incoming stunner while waving his wand, and then deflected the Expelliarmus to the side with a flick. Tonks fired more spells toward Moody, who simply stepped away, shielded or deflected everything. Then, just as Tonks was getting into a rhythm, the pillar behind her had finished moving into position and wrapped around her torso with her arms against it. Moody had ended the training the exact same way he had with me all those years earlier. The early flick with the wand that seemed to do nothing, a classic. I started laughing. I tried to stop when Tonks looked angrily at me, but that just made it funnier. In the end she was released and quickly strode over to me, hitting me on the shoulder. I got my laughter under control and told her why I was laughing, explaining that he'd done the same to me. Her anger died quickly and she gave a chuckle. We kept training most of the day. Moody versus me, Tonks versus me, and Moody versus Tonks again. It was pleasant to have Tonks there for the training, and she took it very seriously. Time continued to pass. Years quickly went by until the summer after I turned 10. That August, Tonks and I made sure, like always, to spend as much time together as possible that month before she had to return for Hogwarts. Our friendship had kept growing stronger over the years, and it had become even harder being apart for such a long stretch of time every year. She would be going back for her 4th year after the month ended, and we were kind of down. We were hanging out in my room, with her parents also visiting for dinner downstairs. Just as we were dragging ourselves down the stairs to join the others for dinner, we heard a tap, tap, tap. At the window, there was an owl, currently trying to get entry. We rarely got owls, but it did happen every now and then as Mum started reconnecting with some people after the war ended. My mum moved to open the window, and the owl flew straight over to me. Tied to its leg was a letter with the Hogwarts logo on. My heart beating fast, I pulled the letter open and read. Dear Mr. Walker, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But I'm not 11 yet. Chapter 23 First 10-year-old ever. I was speechless. I had wanted this for so long. In both my lives one of my biggest dreams had always been to go to Hogwarts, and now suddenly the letter I had been expecting arrived a year early. It's my Hogwarts letter, everyone in the room gasped. Mum hurried forward, took the letter from me, and quickly read it. Tonks pulled herself together quickest and a smile lit her face. Now we don't have to say goodbye. You are coming with me. Woo, she came over and hugged me in pure excitement. She didn't seem to be hung up on the weirdness of it all. Andromeda walked over to my mum, reading the letter over her shoulder. Mum finished and handed it to her. This is impossible. Did they make a mistake? Hogwarts letters are never sent before the 11th birthday of a potential student. Not once has this happened in the almost 1,000 years Hogwarts has existed, at least not that history speaks of. The owl, still waiting, had started to eat some meatloaf from the table, with everyone distracted. Now finished refueling, it let out a hoot, trying to communicate he had been instructed to wait for an answer. I pushed away my many different feelings. What should I do here? Starting at Hogwarts early was in many ways a dream, but the downsides were also present. There was one big thing I had wanted to take care of before going to Hogwarts, which was learning occlumency. I had, however, not found any books about this. Even trying Borgin and Burke's, they had sold all copies during the time of war, and had not received any new ones last I had visited. While I might not have that protection, other measures could be taken though, and I really wanted this. I have to write an answer. I might as well accept, right? The worst they can do is make me wait another year, right? We can include our question about the letter coming early in our reply. Andromeda, who came from a very old family, with tradition built in from childhood, was still reading the letter, over and over. Ted seemed calm, not needing to see it for himself. He was more focused on his daughter and her joyful expression. Mum looked to be having mixed feelings about the whole thing, but eventually just nodded and handed me a pen. Guess you will have to get used to using quills earlier than you thought, she said with a slight smile. I quickly wrote a reply and tied it to the leg of the owl, who quickly left. I had noticed I had received a system prompt when I read the letter. I was about to pull up the prompt, when my thoughts were interrupted by my mum. She pulled everyone's attention back to the waiting dinner. The system would have to wait. We enjoyed dinner, the only subject was of course my letter. Tonks was chatting happily about the stuff we could do at Hogwarts. Ted joined in talking about how great his time at Hogwarts had been. I even met Andromeda there, as you all likely know. I can believe she went for someone like me, she was so far out of my league, and in a different house on top of that. Who knows, maybe you will both meet the one you will marry at Hogwarts too. He gave us a teasing wink. Mum was mostly quiet during the meal, not impolite, just slightly withdrawn. The Tonkses left soon after dinner. Ted, the kind and insightful soul, picked up on my mum's feelings, smoothly ending the evening a bit early. Since I was coming with her to Hogwarts, Tonks had no objections. She just gave me another happy hug and told me to swing by the moment we had confirmation I would attend. After they left I turned to Mum. She was still sitting at the table, a wineglass untouched in front of her. As I walked up to her I was surprised to notice she had tears in her eyes. You have been very quiet since the letter arrived. I didn't dive straight to what I assumed was the issue. I thought it better to let her address what was wrong. I'm sorry, Will, this is supposed to be a happy moment for you, and here I am crying. I'm truly happy for you, I just thought I would have more time with you before you left for so long. Just a few days ago I thought I was so lucky that you were born just after the start of the Hogwarts semester. That I would get a whole extra year with you. She trailed off. I went over and pulled her into a hug. She let me hug her for a while before she seemed to gather herself. Enough of those thoughts now. This is for me to deal with. Starting by getting a job I would actually enjoy, something I could be proud of. Building my life around yours as much as I have was not healthy. Luckily the war ending helped me connect with friends, but even still. It is time for me to find something beyond only motherhood. She nodded to herself, now resolute. I gave an approving nod at her resolve. She looked at me with a real smile, focusing back on the immediate issue. We have to go shopping the moment we get confirmation that you can attend. The semester starts in just 7 days. Later I was alone in my room. I checked the prompt from the system. Quest issued. Chain Quest Part 1 Magical Education Year 1 Improve and grow stronger during your first year. Reward. 1. EXP depends on how much you improve. 2. Stat points depends on how much you improve. Unknown depends on how much you improve. Only the progress made in the world of Harry Potter counts toward quest rewards. More reasons to improve are always welcome, at least when they come with rewards. This year could be my benchmark. If similar quests appeared every year, Hogwarts could become my test case for figuring out how the system judged improvement. I lay back in bed, and let myself daydream about Hogwarts. McGonagall's point of view. The last of the Hogwarts letters had been sent the day before. It was unusual for the Book of Admittance to add a name for an upcoming school year so close to the start of said year. I had been slightly curious about the reason for the late entry to the upcoming year. Perhaps Hogwarts had been uncertain about whether the child had enough magic. I had done my duty, of course, making sure the letter was sent promptly so the student and family would have some time to prepare. I was in the middle of doing a slight edit of the curriculum for the 6th year of the upcoming semester when the owl I had sent with the letter came back. I got up and walked over to retrieve it. I read the beginning quickly, happy to see the prompt reply accepting Hogwarts' offer. When I continued to read, we were surprised to receive the letter a year early, as I am not yet 11. Not yet 11, I quickly got up and headed to Albus' office. After giving the password to the gargoyle I quickly walked up the stairs before knocking on his door. Come in, I heard Albus' calm and collected voice from inside. I entered. Albus was sitting at his desk as I entered. He looked up and gave me a smile. Ah, Minerva, to what do I owe the pleasure of your visit on this fine morning? Albus, this year the Book of Admittance gave me the name of a boy for the upcoming semester who is not yet 11. The letter was sent on the same morning as the date the book gave me, but I have now received the reply. Here, read this. I thought it easier to just let him read the reply rather than explain everything to him. While he read, I sat down. He calmly took the letter from my hand, not seeming worried, rather intrigued. He hummed slightly as he laid the letter down on his desk. I have found that Hogwarts rarely, if ever, makes mistakes when it comes to its students, Minerva. If the Book of Admittance gave his name for the upcoming year, and the date for the letter to be sent was yesterday, I think that was for a reason. I can't help but be curious though. A letter sent before the 11th birthday has, to my knowledge, never happened before. Most curious indeed. This William Walker will attend classes this fall at Hogwarts. I was shocked. Albus would allow this Mr. Walker to attend Hogwarts a year early. But Albus, it is tradition for Hogwarts to only accept children of 11 years or older. Albus simply gave me a calm smile. I dare not question Hogwarts when it comes to its students, Minerva. I will however inform the Ministry of Magic that Hogwarts has accepted a student before his 11th birthday. Though I think I will leave his name out of it, best not let the young boy bear the burden that comes with all this, before he even sets foot at Hogwarts. Besides, his birthday appears to be only 19 days after the semester begins. I'm sure that will help calm the ministry. William's point of view. Mum had gone out to look for a job the same day we had sent the letter. Something was different about her this time to the other times she had gone out to try over the years. Determination gleamed in her eyes. I had never given much thought to the fact that she stayed at home. I had given her some tips on investments we could make in the Muggle world that would make money irrelevant to us soon enough, and figured since she had the financial freedom she had only been looking for, the right job, these last few years. When she returned later that day she told me about her applying for a spot as apprentice healer at St. Mungo's. Late in the evening the day after I had received the Hogwarts letter the reply to the questions we sent back came. I would be allowed to attend. I had immediately had a short celebration with my mum, who now seemed to be handling the news much better. She was genuinely happy for me and there was none of the dread of me leaving anymore. Though she would no doubt miss me, she looked genuinely hopeful for the future today. We both went to bed in a very good mood. The next day we were both up early. Mum was going back for the answer at St. Mungo's and was dropping me off at the Tonks' house first. We apparated over to the Tonks', somewhat early in the morning, but I was too excited to wait any longer to share the news with Tonks. She was still asleep when I arrived so I promptly woke her up. She actually growled at me when I woke her up and refused to let her go back to sleep. Luckily I had the perfect answer with me, coffee. I had convinced her to convert from tea the moment I turned 10, and she had never looked back. The moment she smelt the coffee her eyes snapped open, she had a wild look and I carefully set the coffee down and backed away. After she had a few sips she looked up, still annoyed but now looked human. "What, on God's green earth are you doing here so early, Will?" I held the reply up and answered. "Guess who will be going to Hogwarts along with you in 6 days?" I gave a huge grin. That made Tonks jump out of bed, and jumped right up to give me a bear hug. Coffee spilled everywhere and I felt my heart break at the sight of black gold being spilled. The people who named oil black gold were clearly tea drinkers. I went downstairs to give Tonks some time to freshen up before we went out to celebrate. Downstairs Ted and Andromeda waited, smiling toward me as I came back down. "Congratulations again, Will, though it should come as no surprise that you would be the only exception to the rule of Hogwarts admission. I mean, from some of the things I've seen you do, I kind of think Hogwarts was late," Ted said, though toward the end he, himself, looked unsure whether he was joking. I gave him a big smile and a wink. "I have to agree with you, Ted, Hogwarts was late to the game on this one. I'll have to complain when I arrive." Ted laughed, while Andromeda chuckled. "Yes, congratulations, William. Though I'm still not over how all this happened, I'm happy for you." Andromeda added, her dignified voice carrying genuine warmth. A few moments later Mum arrived bringing more happy news. She had gotten a position at St. Mungo's as an apprentice healer. I had been very surprised when she first told me she applied for 2 reasons. Firstly, she had tried a few times over the years to get a job in the magical world, but mostly got shut down. Second, I had no idea she had any training as a healer. Apparently she had spent 2 years learning with Madame Pomfrey while she was in Hogwarts. I guess it explains all the diagnostic spells she knew, I just never connected it to training in healing. Anyway, it felt good knowing she would be fine without me home. Congratulations were once more being said. Ted joked about opening champagne despite the early morning. A few minutes after Mum's arrival, the morning paper arrived at the Tonks'. After they had paid the owl and it left, Ted calmly sat down with the paper to read, his tea in one hand. He suddenly coughed out some tea as he looked at the front of the paper. "Ted, what is it?" Andromeda asked with a little worry creeping into her voice. The days of the war and the memories that came with that were still present even to this day. Ted stayed silent for a moment, then spoke. "You might want to look at this." Ted just held the prophet out so we could all see the front page. "For the first time in history Hogwarts accepts a student under the age of 11. For the first time since the founding of Hogwarts a letter was sent to a prospective student before said student reached 11. The student has accepted and is set to start Hogwarts September 1st. The name of the student is currently unknown, but sources at the Ministry of Magic have confirmed that the student will be attending Hogwarts this fall. For more information, read pages 25. Chapter 24 The Journey to Hogwarts. Tonks came down the stairs. Seeing all our surprised faces, she looked around. "What happened?" Ted held the prophet out for her to read. Tonks read it, but didn't seem to care much. "So what, you are famous. We knew the letter going out was really rare, they didn't even mention your name here though. Even if they do, I doubt it would mean much, you are only 21 days too young to attend, most people would probably assume that Diana was lying about your birthday, or that she was confounded." She took a bite of toast at the end, seeming unbothered. Andromeda spoke up. "My daughter does have a point. If anyone finds out the prophet is talking about little will happen from it. William will still go to Hogwarts, and most will assume something along the lines of what Nymphadora said. Tonks was about to protest her name, but Andromeda just held up a hand. Not in the morning, please. Tonks sank back down in her chair and finished breakfast. The Daily Prophet article had singled out one issue I had struggled with: how much to stand out. I had been swaying back and forth on that issue. Do I show off more of what I can do now, or stay in the comfortable background where I was safer? Luckily, that internal battle had been mostly settled, just before the article, with the quest from the system. If I wanted to truly improve as much as possible during my time at Hogwarts, I would have to use all of its resources. That, of course, included the teachers. To get their attention would therefore be necessary to secure one-on-one teaching and mentorships. To stand out before the teachers would also draw the attention of the students in Dumbledore, but it would be worth it. So instead the question became, how much do I keep back from showing? The answer came quickly, enough to truly surprise a potential enemy. With my thoughts settled, I focused back on the present. When Tonks finished breakfast, we went out to celebrate. We spent the afternoon swimming in the lake where I had met the mermaid. There we had a nice time swimming and chatting about the upcoming year. Platform 9 3/4 looked different today. I had insisted on entering it through the Muggle side, my nostalgia and joy blending into a lovely feeling. We arrived early, so the platform was not as lively as it would soon become. The Hogwarts train was there waiting for us as we entered. A smile broke on my face. Tonks, next to me, gave me a strange look, but made no comment. There were a few families around, grouped up together, early arrivals like ourselves. Tonks gave a quick hug to her parents and Diana, used to the goodbyes, before turning to me. I'll wait on the train, I'll get us a good compartment while you say goodbye. She boarded the train and I turned to the others. I gave a quick hug to Ted and Andromeda. They then stepped back to give me and Mum some space. Mum had tears in her eyes for the second time in 7 days, but she still looked much better than last time. Getting a job at St. Mungo's had really helped her come to terms with me leaving for Hogwarts. She gave me a soft smile. My dear boy, I'm so happy for you. Do not think these tears are me breaking. I will be fine, more than fine in fact. I will get to start a new chapter and expand upon the life I stopped living when your father died. So do not worry about me when you leave. This is your time to really live, enjoy yourself at Hogwarts, do some pranks, join the Quidditch team, anything that brings you joy. Try to find a few new things, make another friend, and when you come home, I will be there waiting. I love you, my William. She hugged me then and held me for a long time. I will miss you, Mum. And yes, I'll try to enjoy my time at Hogwarts. Going there has been a dream for what seems like a very long time. Wasting this chance would be stupid. I smiled at her. Goodbye, dear. A tear fell from her cheek. Goodbye, Mum. I'll see you soon. With that I turned around and entered the train, giving my mum one last wave from the door. In the second compartment Tonks was waiting for me. She gave me a smile as I entered. Tough goodbye, she asked. It was all right, I think Mum will be fine. The new job really helped. She nodded at that. We settled in chatting about Hogwarts as time passed. The train was quickly filling up and soon the whistle sounded. Soon the view outside the window changed to fields and hills. So, is anyone else joining us? I asked. Tonks shook her head. She looked a bit sad. I knew she and her friends at Hogwarts had a falling out. The boyfriend of one of her friends had expressed interest in Tonks, because of her metamorphosis, which seemed to trigger a fear in the others as well. Tonks had gradually been excluded, a missed invite, an inside joke where she was not included. I couldn't help thinking of them as weak people. I tried to remember that they were young, but still, who cares about a partner if they are chasing others anyway? You know that says everything about them, and nothing about you, right, Tonks? She gave me a sad smile. Yeah, Will, it still hurts though, losing friends because they view me as a threat to their love lives just for existing. I gave her a look. It is better to find a few real friends, than have people who will only be your friend when it is convenient. Finding those is the hard part, but you have one at least. I gave her a cheesy smile. Tonks gave a chuckle at that and seemed to shake off the sadness. So where do you think you will end up? I will likely end up in Slytherin or Ravenclaw if the hat doesn't decide to mess with me. Tonks looked shocked. How do you know about the hat? I never told you. It is tradition to not tell someone before they experience the shortening. Did Diana really tell you? I just smiled mysteriously, without answering. After a while she continued. Slytherin, huh, I can see Ravenclaw, but why Slytherin? I decided to answer truthfully. It fits best with who I am. I like knowledge, of course, but I'm more about what that knowledge can get me. I'm ambitious. I like power and gathering it. I can, when needed, be ruthless. Tonks interrupted with a laugh. Yeah, you certainly can. Sometimes I swear the way you duel could be described as evil. I chuckled, and Tonks continued for me. I get it, though. You are also adaptive, resourceful and pragmatic. All those Slytherin traits and still somehow you are kind. Tonks looked thoughtful, but not judgmental. I can see it, sure. I just know a lot of Slytherins who are massive assholes, or sometimes even worse. If you do end up there, just make sure you are careful, though I'm not too worried. I mean, can a 7th year even handle you by now? The question made me thoughtful. Could they? Tonks laughed at my thoughtful look. Yeah, you'll be fine. Time quickly passed as we sat there. We remained in our compartment, and our conversations were only interrupted by some loud conversations of passing students every now and then. Tonks showed me her latest advances in wandless magic. She could now cast a small wandless protega. With her joining me and Moody for practice, we had been discussing what magic would be most useful for her and landed on protega. Since she was much more limited than I was when it came to using wandless magic, trying to learn more than a few focused spells was unrealistic. I sent a wandless Expelliarmus to test it and it was blocked. The shield was maybe 4 times her palm, so she had to practice a lot before it would be very useful in combat. Nevertheless, the progress was very impressive. She would become an amazing Auror if she decided to go for that later. The Hogsmeade station soon lay ahead. Tonks and I had changed into our Hogwarts uniforms and were ready to exit the train. I marveled at the sight of Hogsmeade station, as what I was about to see became more and more real. I almost immediately noticed something different about the magic around here. It felt dense. Just being here felt different from home, so I filed it away for later. My nostalgia returned as I spotted the enormous man waiting for the first years at the station. First years over here, please. The deep voice rang out, carrying throughout the station. I gave Tonks one final smile in farewell and went off to join the other first years next to Hagrid. I didn't try to fight that giddy feeling that rose in my chest as I reached him. I decided to make a good first impression. Hello there, you must be Hagrid. I've heard of you, always here to guide the first-year students to the castle. That's good of you. I'm William. He seemed surprised to be addressed. The first years usually just stared and whispered, but quickly gave me a large smile. Hello, William, I'm just doing my job. He rocked back on his heels and put his thumbs in his pockets, clearly happy with the compliment. First years, follow me please. He walked off without realizing that his large steps made us all jog to keep up. I smiled and followed the others. We quickly got to the docks where many boats were waiting for us. 4 to a boat, no more. Hagrid called out. I walked up to a boat that already contained 3 people and climbed in. I nodded to a girl sitting in the front next to me and then the 2 boys in the back. I'm William Walker, nice to meet you. One of the boys sneered and said. Walker, never heard of them, you aren't one of those mudbloods, are you? I raised an eyebrow and looked at him silently. After a few seconds, he turned away without introducing himself. The boy sitting next to him gave me a short nod, but didn't say anything. The girl looked uncomfortable, but quietly said. I'm Elizabeth, nice to meet you. She then went quiet. Tough crowd. I was not really in the mood to talk anyway. No, instead I let myself fully embrace the feeling of being here. I was finally here, about to see Hogwarts for the first time. Then I heard Hagrid call out. All inside, good, forward. The boats rocked and started to move forward out of the docks. We quickly left the small harbor and just as we got around the edge of the lake, there she was, Hogwarts. Chapter 25 The Sorting. The sight of Hogwarts was absolutely breathtaking. Even having seen it on screen, nothing could have prepared me for this. I choked up, the feeling of actually being here hitting me hard. The castle stood there, proud and inviting, the very air felt different as we got closer. It felt like being embraced by a mother, like I was safe and loved, like I belonged. A place with more secrets than any other in the world, dangers and wonders both. The lights from the castle reflected in the water, giving it all a look like it did not belong to some place as mundane as Earth. I took a shaky breath, steadying myself as the boats came to a stop at the small Hogwarts docks. We were here. We got out of the boats and followed Hagrid as he led us through the castle towards where McGonagall would meet us. Whispers of wonder and gasps could be heard as we went. Waiting on the steps of a staircase was McGonagall. She looked exactly like the actor who played her, Maggie Smith, unlike Hagrid, who had the same face as his actor but was a bit bigger. She stood proudly before us, living up to every expectation I had come to have. She did not need to tell us to be silent, no, her presence demanded it. Follow me. She led us up the stairs and we came to a halt before the doors to the Great Hall. She turned back to us and spoke. Welcome to Hogwarts. In a few moments you will pass through those doors and join your fellow students. Before you do, you will be sorted into your houses. The sorting is one of the oldest traditions of this school, and the house you join will become your family while you are here. The houses are Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor and Slytherin. Your successes will earn your house honor. Your mistakes may cost it points. You will study, dine and sleep alongside your housemates, and I expect each of you to conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of Hogwarts. Shortly, you will be sorted. While you wait, I ask that you remain quiet and present yourselves as best you can. Wait here. As she left, whispers again broke out, which I quickly tuned out. Don't meet the eyes of anyone who could know legilimency, and the moment I get the chance, I'll try to find something on occlumency. A scream rang out from a first year close by. I turned to see what the yell was about and was treated to the sight of a ghost coming towards us through a wall. The ghost gave a little bow and said, "Greetings, new students of Hogwarts. I bid you most welcome." Soon more ghosts followed and floated around us, some giving different welcomes to others in their own conversations as they floated past us and through the doors to the Great Hall. I spotted nearly headless Nick in a conversation with another ghost, trying to get support for his upcoming application for the Headless Hunt. Soon McGonagall returned and said, "They are ready for you now. Follow me." The doors swung fully open and the sound of chattering students reached us. The Great Hall was astonishing, with beautiful large windows behind the teachers and the ceiling spelled to look like the night sky. I fell behind as the others started walking because I was so taken with the sight. I took a few steps to catch up as we walked between the two center tables, students all around us watching. I spotted Tonks at the Hufflepuff table as we walked past, giving her a quick smile. We moved towards the hat that was waiting atop a chair before the main table. I really hope the hat does not read minds, but instead sees traits. Or at least can't share what it sees. We came to a stop before the sorting hat and it began its song. I listened with half an ear, but most of my attention was on the hall itself. I had felt the difference in the magic at Hogsmeade Station, but it had not stopped there. The density of magic had kept increasing until we reached the castle itself. In here, it was so dense I could almost see the magic rather than sense it. I looked towards the head table, careful not to meet anyone's eyes. Flitwick looked very little like any of the actors who had played him. A younger-looking Alan Rickman sat far to the left. Hagrid, of course. Madame Pomfrey was a little different but recognizable. Sprout was very close to her actor, only a little thinner and with brown hair. There were a few more I could guess and a few unknowns. My eyes then swept towards Dumbledore, more careful than ever not to look towards his eyes. That was lucky because the man was looking towards where I was. He gave a small, almost knowing smile, like he recognized what I had done earlier, looking around at the air. Did he see me notice the magic density? The hat had finished its song, and McGonagall stepped forward again, interrupting my thoughts. "When I call your name, move forward, take a seat upon the chair and I will place the hat on your head," she began. Ethan Ashicom, a boy, moved forward to the chair and sat down, and the hat was placed on his head. "Hufflepuff," the hat yelled. The Hufflepuff table cheered, and he smiled and ran to take a seat. The sorting continued. I gave a sigh when the nameless asshole from the boat was placed in Slytherin. 5 students ended up in Slytherin before my name was called. 2 boys and 3 girls. William Walker. My name was called. This was finally it. I walked forward at a calm pace, leaving the last 2 students behind, and moved up to the chair. I sat down, and the worry from earlier came back just as the hat was placed atop my head. "I can read your mind, boy. Don't worry too much, though. I cannot reveal anything I find. My enchantments won't allow it." I decided I might as well respond. "Thank you for informing me. That is good to hear. It is good to meet you. I'm William. What is your name, Mr. Hat?" I figured he got very few proper greetings. I might as well be polite to one of the oldest living entities in the castle. "Oh ho, the last time someone asked for my name was 529 years ago. I don't usually give it freely. Perhaps you will earn it in the future. There is something strange about you. Well, aren't you the special boy, or should I say man? A reborn soul, ain't that something? And even more, you can freely travel to other worlds. How fascinating, though that will have to wait, for now at least. Right now I have a job to do." I thanked my lucky stars that he claimed to be bound by his enchantments not to reveal anything he found. "I have to say, I agree with you about where you belong. Very few see themselves so clearly, good and bad. I wish you luck in the future, William. If you want to have another conversation, I'd be happy to. You know where to find me. Slytherin, to be continued."